All right, guys, I'm gonna go a little science geek on you here, but it's not gonna be that long. But it's also going to explain the process biologically about how to develop the skill of self-discipline. And that's right, it's a skill. I used to think forever that it was either something you were born with or you were born without it, but it turns out it's an actual learnable skill. And I know this because I've coached hundreds of people in the skill of self-discipline over the last couple of years. But the first thing you need to understand about the skill and your biology is the two different versions of you. Every time there's a decision in front of you that needs to be made, there are two different versions of you fighting to get to that decision, and whichever one gets there first, it owns the right to make the decision and own that decision going forward. The first version of you that's trying to get there is your emotions. This is the thing that usually pops up in your head and says, oh man, that looks really hard. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull that off. It does all this negative self-talk. That's typically what our emotions are doing. Even when we find ourselves excited at the beginning, there still is that little creep that comes in with the self-doubt, which is what your emotions are doing to you when you're trying to get to that decision. The second version of you that's trying to get to that decision and make it is logic. Logic is the thing that knows that you've got the skill set and you just need to line up thing A, thing B, and thing C, and you will have success if you make the decision to move forward. All of these things are fighting to get to that decision first. And typically, logic can win out over emotion if it doesn't hesitate. But it hesitates and doesn't get there first, and we allow emotion to get there first and winds up making the decision that usually has us backing out and not doing the things that we know we need to do in order to get whatever results we want. So the question becomes, how do we get to there? How do we get to the space where logic makes more decisions for us than our emotions do? Our boss voice versus our bitch voice. The process has to do with this thing called myelination. And the first thing you need to understand about that is there are all these different neural pathways going through your body, like hundreds of millions of miles going through your brain, going through your entire body. All these neural pathways, they're wrapped in this fatty sheath of substance called myelin. And myelin works kind of like housing on an electrical wire. If you can picture an electrical wire with rubber housing around it, the rubber housing is designed to keep all the electricity flowing in the same direction. And it's to do it efficiently too. So when there's a process of increased myelin around these neural pathways, you wind up making more decisions based on logic. To build up your myelin and to increase the process of myelination, you need quick wins and repeatable patterns that are going to make you feel the momentum of doing the things that you know you need to do and that you told yourself that you would do. And so we start out this process really small. An easy way for you to do this is that if you say tomorrow morning you're gonna wake up at 6 a.m., then get out of bed at 6 a.m. The process of telling yourself the truth and doing small wins increases that fatty sheath of myelin around your neural pathways and helps you make even more decisions with logic versus the decisions of emotion. There are hundreds of different examples that we can do when it comes to just following through on these micro little wins when you say that you're going to do something. But what you've got to understand is that all of those micro wins add up into a process where you've now got the electricity, which is really what our decisions are doing. That's what's going on in our body all the time, is electrical signals. Those things are going to the right place in part because that quote unquote electrical housing, which is the myelin, winds up insulating that electricity and shooting it to the exact right spot. So that's your full science geek on the skill of self-discipline and how it works from a biological perspective. The action item coming out of this video is set yourself up for small wins and repeatable processes, because that's going to build up the myelin around your neural pathways and have you making more decisions out of logic than out of emotion.